I noticed that withdrawal doesn't arrive as rejection. It doesn't feel like anger toward the world or disappointment with people. It arrives quietly, almost politely, like a realization you don't announce. One day the same conversations feel louder than they should. The same ambitions feel heavier than before. Not painful, just unnecessary. I might be wrong, but it feels less like leaving society and more like society slowly stepping back on its own. As if awareness is saying, very softly, enough input for now. The Āraṇyaka seems to live exactly in this pause, not afterlife, not against life, but in the moment when life no longer needs to be explained outwardly. When sound, ritual, and performance begin turning inward. Not as Daniel, but as Advaita. We often imagine ancient forest texts as escape manuals, but when I sit with this one, it feels more physiological than philosophical, like a nervous system learning when to reduce stimulation, like breath naturally slowing once effort is complete. The forest here doesn't feel geographical. It feels cognitive. A thinning of noise, a reduction of roles. The Āraṇyaka doesn't tell you to abandon society. It simply stops feeding the machinery that keeps society running inside you. Titles fade, duties soften, identity loosens. Not dramatically. Gently, almost embarrassingly, quietly, as if the mind itself realizes it has been working overtime for something that never asked to be maintained. There's something unsettling about that, because if meaning doesn't need constant reinforcement, then what exactly have we been protecting all this time? The Āraṇyaka doesn't answer this. It doesn't even ask it directly. It just shifts the orientation. Ritual becomes reflection. Action becomes observation. Fire moves from the altar into attention itself. I find myself noticing how much of my daily movement is performance. Not for others necessarily, but for continuity. To keep the story intact, to keep the sense of I am doing uninterrupted. And when that doing slows, something else starts to surface. Not wisdom, not peace, just raw awareness, unpolished, slightly awkward, unsure of what to do without instructions. This is where the forest really begins. Not in trees, but in uncertainty. The Āraṇyaka feels like a text written for that exact threshold, when certainty has dissolved, but inquiry hasn't yet sharpened. When you're no longer convinced by rituals, but not yet brave enough to sit without frameworks. It's uncomfortable here. There's no social validation for stepping back internally, no applause for not participating. And yet, something in the body relaxes, as if effort itself was a kind of tension we mistook for purpose. The text doesn't glorify withdrawal, it normalizes it, as though this phase was always expected, like rest after exertion, like silence after sound. I keep noticing how modern this feels. Burnout, overstimulation, identity fatigue. Different words, same phenomenon. The Āraṇyaka doesn't diagnose the world. It responds to the organism living in it. It treats awareness as something that needs periods of non-engagement to recalibrate. And maybe that's why it doesn't rush toward metaphysics yet. It first creates space. Psychological space. Perceptual space. A clearing where thought isn't constantly demanded to perform, meaning where consciousness isn't forced to explain itself every second. In this clearing, something strange happens. Time loses urgency. Not because there's nothing to do, but because nothing is pushing. Memory slows, anticipation weakens. The future stops shouting. And without anyone announcing it, inquiry begins to shift direction. Instead of asking, what should I do next? Something deeper murmurs. Who has been doing all this? The Āraṇyaka doesn't dramatize this question. It lets it arrive naturally. Like hunger, like thirst, like the body knowing before the mind does. This is where withdrawal stops being about society and starts becoming about structure, about how identity itself was constructed through participation, through repetition, through mirroring. And when those mirrors are removed, even temporarily, the sense of self flickers, not disappears, flickers. And that flicker is important, because it reveals something unstable that was always assumed to be solid. The forest, then, isn't an escape. It's a testing ground. A place where the self is observed, without reinforcement. I might be wrong, but it feels like the Āraṇyaka exists to prepare awareness for a deeper kind of listening. Before silence becomes inquiry, before inquiry becomes knowledge. It doesn't reveal truth, it makes truth possible by reducing interference. Like lowering background noise, before a faint signal can be detected. And maybe that's why this text feels like a bridge. Not ending ritual, not beginning philosophy, but suspending both, just long enough for something more intimate to appear. Because once the world quiets outside, something starts speaking inside. Not in words, in patterns, in recognition, in a subtle discomfort with surface explanations. And without naming it, yet, awareness starts turning toward itself. Curious, cautious, almost surprised that it can do that. As if this withdrawal wasn't an exit at all, but an entry point. And somewhere ahead, though not announced, the questions are about to become sharper. Less about stepping back, more about seeing through. And the forest, having done its work, will no longer be needed.